In the frigid, unforgiving expanse of the North Atlantic, U.S. forces have executed a daring seizure of the Russian-flagged oil tanker Marinera, a vessel that has been under close watch for weeks. The ship, also known as MV Bella 1, became the center of a dramatic escalation in already simmering tensions between Washington and Moscow, drawing the eyes of the world to these icy waters. Acting on a U.S. federal court warrant, American military forces boarded the vessel in international waters. A move that sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles and the global community at large. This meticulously planned operation was the culmination of weeks of intense surveillance, intelligence gathering, and international coordination, marking a bold shift from traditional financial sanctions to direct military enforcement on the high seas. The implications of this action are profound and far-reaching, raising urgent questions about maritime law, national sovereignty, and the evolving rules of global engagement. The world is now forced to reconsider the boundaries of international law and the power of military intervention. The United States, determined to disrupt what it calls illicit trade networks, deployed helicopters and heavily armed personnel in a powerful show of force, signaling its willingness to act decisively far from its own shores. For the Russian crew, the sudden and overwhelming boarding was a terrifying ordeal. Their fate now hangs in the balance, caught between two superpowers, as Moscow demands their immediate release and the world waits to see what justice will look like. The world watches with bated breath as this high-stakes standoff between two nuclear powers unfolds, each move scrutinized by governments, analysts, and ordinary citizens alike. The safe resolution of the crew's situation is now a critical test for both sides, with the outcome likely to shape the future of maritime security and international diplomacy for years to come. The U.S. justifies the Marinera seizure as a crackdown on what it calls a shadow fleet, an elusive network of ships operating in the world's busiest shipping lanes, often under false flags or with hidden ownership. These vessels are allegedly used by Russia, Iran, and Venezuela to evade international sanctions, moving oil and other resources covertly to fund regimes that the U.S. and its allies consider hostile or destabilizing. The Marinera, already blacklisted for its suspected ties to Hezbollah, had a documented history of evasive maneuvers, at one point even dodging a U.S. Coast Guard boarding attempt in December, raising further suspicions about its cargo and intentions. U.S. officials, including Secretary Rubio, framed the operation as part of a broader global oil quarantine, a coordinated effort to choke off vital revenue streams that keep sanctioned states afloat and able to project power. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth insists this is not an act of aggression, but rather the enforcement of a worldwide blockade, an international effort to uphold the rules-based order at sea. The U.S. claims the Marinera's cargo may have originated in Venezuela, a country under heavy sanctions, and now recognized Venezuelan authorities are formally requesting the return of the seized oil, adding a diplomatic layer to the standoff. This narrative positions the U.S. as both enforcer of international law and as an ally, helping a recognized government reclaim resources that might otherwise fuel black markets or hostile actors. The operation is presented as having both legal and moral justification on the world stage, with U.S. officials emphasizing compliance with international maritime law and the broader fight against illicit trade. The message is clear. The U.S. will pursue illicit oil trade anywhere it occurs, using every tool at its disposal, and will not hesitate to act, no matter how far these shadow fleets may roam. Russia's response was immediate and furious, condemning the seizure as a blatant violation of international law and an act of state-sponsored piracy. Moscow demands the vessel and crew's release, calling the U.S. action a direct challenge to Russian sovereignty and freedom of navigation. Russian officials warn this could be seen as a provocation, fueling anti-American sentiment and hardening positions. Reports of Russian naval assets nearby add a tense military dimension, though direct confrontation was avoided. President Putin has issued a stern warning to President Trump, promising consequences. For Russia, this is not just about one ship, it's about resisting what it sees as a broader American strategy to undermine its global influence. The diplomatic standoff now threatens to escalate, making resolution more difficult. The Marinera seizure was a meticulously planned multi-agency U.S. operation, blending law enforcement with military precision. Weeks of Coast Guard surveillance set the stage, with the final boarding executed by helicopter in harsh North Atlantic conditions. This vertical insertion tactic allowed U.S. forces to quickly secure the vessel and minimize resistance, The operation's sophistication was meant to send a clear message: the U.S. can and will enforce its sanctions regime anywhere. The Marinera is now en route to a U.S. port, its crew detained and facing American justice. The mission showcased seamless integration of intelligence, law enforcement, and military power. It's a real-world example of America's willingness to project force to uphold its economic policies. The Marinera seizure exposes the shadow fleet, aging tankers used by sanctioned states to secretly move oil, evading Western sanctions. These ships, often past their prime, operate in a murky world where international law is routinely bent or ignored. Their journeys are shrouded in secrecy, and their cargoes are the lifeblood of economies under pressure from global restrictions. To avoid detection, these ships go dark by disabling tracking systems, changing names, and hiding ownership through complex webs of shell companies. Crews repaint hulls and falsify documents, making it nearly impossible for authorities to trace their true origins or destinations. This elaborate deception is a high-stakes game, with millions of dollars and international reputations on the line. The Shadow Fleet creates a parallel shipping network, keeping economies like Iran, Venezuela, and Russia afloat. These alternative routes bypass official channels, allowing sanctioned oil to reach buyers willing to take the risk. The scale of this operation is global, stretching from the Persian Gulf to the Caribbean and beyond. This clandestine trade not only undermines sanctions but also poses serious environmental risks, as many vessels are old, poorly maintained, and uninsured. Oil spills and accidents are frequent, threatening fragile marine ecosystems and coastal communities. The lack of oversight means that when disaster strikes, there is often no one held accountable. U.S. and allied intelligence agencies use satellites and financial tracking to monitor and sanction these ships, but operators constantly adapt. Every new enforcement tactic is met with a countermove. As the Shadow Fleet evolves to stay one step ahead, the cat-and-mouse dynamic is relentless, requiring constant vigilance and innovation. The Marinera operation marks a shift from financial penalties to direct intervention. Now, authorities are willing to board, seize, and detain vessels, sending a clear message that illegal shipping will not go unchallenged. The Shadow Fleet complicates global energy markets, creating a two-tiered system, one above board, one in the shadows. This division distorts prices, disrupts supply chains, and makes it harder for legitimate businesses to compete on a level playing field. For the U.S., dismantling this network is now a top priority, with officials warning that no ocean is off-limits. The commitment to maritime security is stronger than ever, and new strategies are being developed to close the loopholes exploited by the Shadow Fleet. The message is clear: future seizures are likely as the U.S. raises the stakes for Shadow Fleet participants. The global game of cat and mouse is far from over, and the outcome will shape the future of international energy and security. The Marinera seizure was quickly followed by another. The U.S. intercepted the Panama-flagged supertanker M. Sophia near the Caribbean. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem announced the operation, signaling a broad, coordinated crackdown on illicit oil shipments. Like the Marinera, the M. Sophia had departed Venezuela, was sailing with its transponder off, and was reportedly bound for China. The U.S. is targeting the activity, not just the flag. Any vessel moving sanctioned oil is now at risk. This expansion to the Caribbean highlights the global reach of U.S. enforcement. Two seizures in quick succession suggest a deliberate campaign, not a one-off. The Trump administration is signaling a new, more aggressive phase in sanctions enforcement. The message to the shipping industry: profits from shadow trade now come with unprecedented risk. The era of simple blacklisting is over. Direct seizures are the new norm. The tanker seizures have sparked strong statements from both Washington and Moscow, each shaping the narrative to their advantage. U.S. officials, including Defense Secretary Hegseth and Homeland Security Secretary Noem, framed the actions as national security and law enforcement, not just foreign policy. Secretary Rubio's briefing to Congress highlights the sophistication of the mission and the U.S.'s cooperation with recognized Venezuelan authorities. This messaging aims to build domestic and international support for aggressive enforcement. In contrast, Russia's foreign ministry and media denounced the seizures as illegal aggression, with President Putin warning of potential retaliation. The incident has become a direct test of wills between the two world leaders. The Marinera and M. Sophia seizures mark a turning point in global maritime enforcement and U.S. sanctions policy. By moving to direct military seizures, the U.S. is testing the limits of its power and the world's tolerance for unilateral action. This sets a precedent that could fragment maritime law, raising fears that any nation's ships could be targeted for political reasons. The risk of naval standoffs and escalation is now real, especially as Russia weighs its response. Moscow could retaliate diplomatically, legally, or even militarily, raising the stakes for all involved. The fate of the detained Russian crew remains a flashpoint. The world must now debate whether such seizures are legitimate statecraft or a return to might makes right. The outcome will shape the future of global maritime order, and the stakes could not be higher.